Hello, GM. My name is Derek. I'm from Offchain Labs. And today I'm going to talk to you guys about Offchain Labs' roadmap for Arbitrum. Folks can also scan this QR code if you want to read our full, the roadmap and the blog post. But today I'm going to give some snippets of what we've shared. Today's agenda is pretty light. I'm just going to talk briefly about what Offchain Labs, who they are. I'm just also going to explain some bit about Arbitrum, where we are today. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about the roadmap. I'm going to talk through something that we released last week, something that we're going to release imminently, and then something for 2025. So cool. Without further ado, so Offchain Labs is actually an R&D and engineering firm. We are core contributors to Arbitrum technology. So you guys recognize Arbitrum 1 as one of the flagship chains that are owned by the DAO. Arbitrum Nova is another one of them. And then lastly, we also contribute to something called the Arbitrum Orbit product stack. And so this is where teams can choose to launch their own chain using the same technology that powers Arbitrum 1. But we're more than just this. We actually also developed Prism, which is the #1 consensus layer client for L1. And we also recently launched something called Tandem, which is our venture arm. Finance, but also with engineering resources that we invest in teams to do research and that sort of thing. Two examples is Espresso Systems, which is working on decentralized sequencing, and X Populus, behind the popular gaming blockchain Zai. Awesome. So I didn't know what type of crowd I would have today, so I'm just going to talk one slide, I promise, about what Arbitrum is. So Arbitrum is actually a tech stack for optimistic rollups, and it's a layer 2 on top of Ethereum. And so I put this super sophisticated diagram together here just to showcase what that actually means. That was a joke. So you can see Ethereum on the bottom has 12-second block times, but Arbitrum is known for having 250 millisecond block times that can actually go as low as 100 milliseconds if you launch your own Orbit chain. And obviously, over time, the Arbitrum blockchain will post transaction data and outputs to the L1, and in that way it inherits security, and then users and apps can build on this EVM equivalent chain, so you can bridge your assets to this tech stack. Obviously, this means that Arbitrum chains are faster, they're cheaper than L1, they're secured by fraud proofs, one of only two L2s that have that, and lastly, Ethereum compatible, and ultimately this grows the pie. The selling point really is that if you make Ethereum apps easy to use, more people will use them, and essentially more and more users in our ecosystem will continue to come. Cool. And then, I mentioned Orbit a couple of times. I think that's David's slides coming up next, so I won't steal too much of his thunder. Perfect. So where's Arbitrum today? And specifically, I'm going to talk about Arbitrum 1. I don't think this is a very surprising graph to anyone. I pulled this on Monday. But this just kind of goes to show how much of an ecosystem we have, how much liquidity is on Arbitrum 1, and why teams continue to pick and choose to build on Arbitrum technology. And if this isn't convincing enough, I have a time graph as well to kind of show all the way from February 2022 how much bridged ETH as a dollar figure has been bridged to Arbitrum 1. And as you'll notice on the bottom, we also have some L1s there. I'm not going to call them out, but you can clearly see them. And on the top right, I also wanted to include that this data includes some activity that sexes do, including Binance. So the first product, and you can also scan this QR code if you're curious to learn more about this one. The first product I'm going to talk about is Stylus, and this actually went live on mainnet last Tuesday. And what Stylus is actually an upgrade to Arbitrum chains that adds a WASM VM. And what this allows for is teams to write their smart contracts in Rust or C++. This is one of only 2 cases that I'm aware of where a blockchain actually went and added a second VM to their chain. That's an EVM chain. And this is really a game changer, really. Because any WASM, any language that compiles down to WASM will work. It's interoperable with Solidity, so my Rust contract can call a Solidity contract. And we have an SDK for Rust and C, but there's already been demand for a Move SDK, as well as an AssemblyScript SDK. And a big reason for this is because WASM is more memory and computationally efficient than Solidity. Some use cases on why we built this. There's Solana projects that are considering migrating or expanding to tap into that EVM liquidity that I mentioned on those previous slides. Arbitrum has also made a huge bet on gaming, and so games with the Unity game engine are now more possible with Stylus. And these last two bullet points about dark pools with MPC and ZK and complex cryptography, those actually were use cases we didn't really know about until teams built it. And so these 5 teams are going to launch before the end of the year. I think Renegade is already live. So if you want to check those teams out, I strongly encourage you to do so. Because these are teams building things that weren't possible before. And I think that's really, really awesome. Next, I'm going to talk about Bold. So Bold is very complicated, so I'm going to go a little quick. But Arbitrum Bold is our answer to how to make Arbitrum chains permissionlessly validatable. So today, what happens is when there's this dispute on an Arbitrum chain, the dispute goes sequentially. So if there's 5 people that dispute or disagree with the state, the challenge game goes one by one. And this has a risk of delaying the chain. Arbitrum Bold is an upgrade to enable those challenge or dispute games to be played in parallel. What this means is that anyone can validate an Arbitrum chain. Anyone can challenge an assertion, basically. Like if I disagree with the state of the Arbitrum chain, I can challenge. And this also means anyone can defend. So this opens up the world of permissionless validation and is a step towards stage 2. And if you scan this QR code, it takes you kind of an explainer on how Bold works, why Bold, and what it looks like. And we're planning to ship this on mainnet before the DAO, of course, as a proposal, sometime in Q4. Lastly, I'm sure many people are very curious about this topic. We have plans and have begun already to look into making Arbitrum and integrating ZK into Arbitrum chains. This is 2025 because we're very early in our research. But the approach that we've landed on, and this is just a theory, we may change this, but there's a world where users and entities can pay to generate a ZK proof and obviously pay someone to do the verification when it's desired. But on the flip side, if you don't need this or it's too expensive, you can choose to rely on the current challenge protocol for optimistic proving. So it's kind of, with ZK, it's expensive, but you get the fast finality guarantees. It's complex, but it simplifies interop. On the optimistic proving side, it's cheap, but there's a 7-day challenge period. It's simpler, which is why Arbitrum and a lot of other L2s chose to go with that first, and it scales today. But our goal is to kind of get the best of both worlds. And a little footnote, Arbitrum chains have been secured with optimistic fraud proofs since launch around 3 years ago. And no incidents have ever occurred. So I'm not saying that optimistic proving needs improving, but that ZK can supplement the user experience. Awesome. And there's actually so many more things that if you're curious, come talk to me after. I'm working very diligently on Time Boost right now. The snapshot vote just went live today before the DAO. So they will choose to signal their intent to adopting this. And this is basically a new transaction ordering policy at the sequencer of an L2 for more fair L2 MEV capture. Another one is adaptive gas pricing. So this is our flavor or our version of multidimensional gas pricing that Vitalik has talked about. This is a baby step towards that, to more accurately and fairly price chain resource usage. Next, we've also talked about this publicly. We're going to be looking at how to 10x or even 100x throughput on Arbitrum chains to chase after the elusive 1 gigagas throughput or North Star. And this includes examining Reth, Aragon, Nethermind, those types of execution layer clients. Obviously, I also mentioned Espresso. We're working diligently on decentralized sequencing. And I believe today there was a spec that we already published with Espresso, or maybe it's tomorrow, that allow for multiple sequencers to sequence the transactions on an Arbitrum chain. And last but not least, chain clusters. This is enabling native interop that's opt-in for any chain that has chosen to build with the Arbitrum Nitro stack to enable fast cross-chain message passage. Cool. That was a lot of stuff. I think I went pretty good pacing. That's really it. So yeah. Awesome. So feel free to scan this if you want to ask me a question. Also come grab me. And do I have time for questions or? Yeah. 5 minutes? Okay, cool. Yeah, if anyone has questions, you can ask them now. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Curious about your thoughts on the recent discussion around incentives with L2s for decentralizing sequencing fees, and there's a lot of money that comes from sequencing fees within the L2, and it's kind of against incentives to decentralize it. Yeah, that general debate.
Yep. So for Arbitrum 1, at least, that is owned and governed by the Arbitrum DAO. So all the sequencer fees go to the Arbitrum DAO. And this includes any of the MEV that gets captured with time boost. The Arbitrum DAO can choose what to do with these funds. And if they choose to use this, this bucket of money to incentivize, for example, decentralizing the validator set with Bold, decentralizing the sequencer set with what Espresso is doing, they're at full liberty to do that. And yeah, I think, personally, I think that's not a bad thing at all, because it just kind of builds on the resiliency, the robustness, and of the chain. And it would attract like-minded users that care about those things as well. So my short answer is it's up to the DAO. Yeah.
In your last slide, you had a feature that is exactly chain cluster. Is this going to be more of an interoperable multi-chain, off-chain type of feature, or is it going to be more of a chain abstraction?
It's going to be the former. So the design is still being worked on, but the general idea is that you have a chain that opts into a shared validator set, where maybe there's 5 people, 5 entities that are validating the state output of multiple chains. So they can say, you can trust that these 5 people know what is actually correct across 5, 6, 7 chains. And because of that trust assumption, you can do the cross-chain message passing much faster. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but it's not actual transfer of assets between chains.
It can be, yeah. Because if, for example, you are validating 2 different chains, you know what is true on one and what is true on the other. So you can facilitate that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or you can do layer 0, you can set up your own fast bridge. But that fast bridge can now trust this validator committee rather than trusting that third-party bridge. Yeah.
Wait a sec.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Thank you. In the same line, because chain cluster looks really interesting, it will be only for EVM chains, or are you thinking expanding, I don't know, maybe substrate chains?
So all of our contributions are are going to be to Arbitrum tech stack, and Arbitrum for now will remain an EVM chain. Yeah. So not only EVM chains, but only Arbitrum chains. Yeah. Do you want to get the mic or?
No.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, there's one more? I don't know. Okay, cool. Thank you, everyone.